everybody out there in the vinyl community and those watching YouTube. Welcome to another episode here at Twanger's Turntable. I'm Twanger, your host. It's been a while. I did a couple of updated posts just saying, yeah, I'm still here doing my thing, but an official episode, finally. Episode 15, where I left off before, was 14 of debuts in my collection. This will be 15. I'm going to try and keep this one relatively brief. And I've got some here that I don't know a whole lot about. I picked them up fairly recently because I had heard about them, and funny enough, one of the ones that I had heard about, when I did listen to it, there was a familiarity to it, like I had heard it before. So I'm sure I have, probably when I was a youngster and my older siblings, or radio. But listening to it, it's funny, for the younger audience, what they remind me of is Greta Van Fleet. And Greta Van Fleet, for those who have not heard, get the comparisons to Led Zeppelin, but I'm sure there's lots of inspirations they've drawn from, and I think potentially this is one of them. So this came out in 1975, and it's by a band called Angel, and this is their debut. And specifically a couple of tunes on side 2 here, like Sunday Morning, On and On. Very much into that the vocalist style of I don't even know the gentleman's name, the young guy in Greta Van Fleet, but that's certainly what it reminds me of. Greta Van Fleet, of course, would remind me of these guys. These guys, like I say, this is from 1975, probably in that vein of AOR. You know, for those who don't know, there was a all album-oriented radio or album-oriented rock back in the day. It's kind of progressive rock, hard rock. So yeah, the vocalist here is, I think it's Barry Brent, and the guitar player, I think Punky Meadows, Frank Domino, I believe, was on drums, Greg Giffria, and Mickey Jones. But yeah, it's on the Casablanca label from 1975, and yeah, like I say, I don't know a lot about it, but I picked it up recently. Well, recently, sometime within the last year, I don't recall, but one of the vinyl finds. It was a blind buy, but not entirely. I had heard about them on in the vinyl community, and I want to give a shout out to some of the channels I've been recently watching, such as Rachel's Ghost. Fantastic. She does some live chats that are awesome, and great personalities on there. I really enjoy it. 45 RPM audiophile, a gentleman over in Germany, Michael, I believe his name is. Really enjoyed his stuff, and many others. I'll list a couple in the comments below, or I'll link them below, not the comments. And as I usually do, I'll also link some samples for those who have not heard of these bands. But this is a debut from Angel from 1975. I also want to do a shout out at the end. I hope I don't forget. I'm trying to keep this short and brief, but it's a important shout out to me. Next one is from 1976. This is a band out of Canada here, and they were called Lynx, and this is their debut called Missing Links. Essentially, it was a couple of brothers, Mike Schwartz and Rob Schwartz, primary members or the founding members of this band. But they were accompanied by Bob Walker, Tony Caputo, and Rick Haberman on drums, Rob Walker on bass, respectively, Tony Caputo on keyboards. Mike Schwartz was the vocalist, and his brother Rob Schwartz was on lead guitar. Mike Schwartz also performed rhythm guitar. This is their debut from 1976, and I've heard them compared to almost like a Canadian version of Kiss, and I would suggest that's a fair comparison, especially in a couple of tunes I've heard here, like Dollars, Best You Ever Had. That's certainly got that, especially with the Kiss with the Gene Simmons on vocal. I would suggest it's very reminiscent of that, and quite a few actually. It's a fair comparison, but good in its own right. This is their debut from 1976, and it's called Links. Missing Links is the title of the album. Next up, I've got a couple next up here, also from north of the border here in Canada. And my friends and I, we used to have kind of a running joke back in the day that several of these bands could tour around together in one van and just with several different vocalists, and the band members could just perform. One of those bands was, with all due respect, Street Heart, and this is their debut. Meanwhile, Back in Paris. This is a great album for a debut. I love Kenny Shields, rest in peace. Great vocalist. Accompanied by Paul Dean on guitar, Matthew Fournette on drums, Daryl, I hope I can pronounce that right, Guthiel on keyboard, Kenny Shields, as I alluded to, lead vocalist, and Ken, another one that I'm not sure I'll pronounce properly, Ken Sinave on bass vocal. But yeah, particularly Paul Dean and Matthew Fournette, they'll be featured in my next debut here as well. But yeah, this Street Heart was, when was this? This is 1978. But yeah, the whole album is really strong. That first song, the line, Meanwhile Back in Paris, that's from the lead-off track on side 1, Action. And Pressure, Can You Feel It, Move On Over. Side 2 is Look at Me, Captain Rhythm, Streetwalker, People, Just For You. Really, really good debut. Yeah, if you like Street Heart and that 70s rock, some people I've heard suggest it's falls into that hard rock. I'm not sure I'd go that far. It's just straightforward, good rock. But yeah, great album. I love Street Heart. Pretty much any of their stuff I'm usually into, and I picked up several in succession within the last year, because I only had one on vinyl, and now I've got I think I've got 4 of them on vinyl. So yeah, love Street Heart. Next up, as I alluded to, also from north of the border here, and featuring, you know, Matt Fournette on drums and Paul Dean on guitar, is the debut from Loverboy. This would be 1980, I believe it was. Yeah, Loverboy, self-titled debut, 1980. We used to get a kick out of that cover, my buddies and I. And is it a man? Is it a woman? Ultimately, who cares? It was just good tunes. Mike Reno on vocals, of course. Doug Johnson keyboard, Scott Smith bass. Really good. I mean, The Kid Is Hot Tonight, Turn Me Loose. Most people have heard of these tunes. Always on My Mind. Lady of the 80s. I love that one. I remember I would have been 12 at the time. That was probably one of my favorite tracks. Little Girl, Prissy Prissy. That was a good one. Teenage Overdose, DOA. It Don't Matter. Really solid debut, in my humble opinion. I mean, it's not for everyone, but none of this stuff is. I mean, that's what this is all about. Is taste in music is not something that's I don't think, aside from those who really pick it apart, I don't think it's an intellectual thing. It's a feeling thing. So whatever, it is what it is. Love this debut by Loverboy, and that's from 1980. And another one actually from north of the border here in Canada. The Kings. The Kings are here. This is a 1980 debut from these guys, and of course probably best known for The Beat Goes On, Switch and the Glide. That was a huge one off of here. The follow-up unfortunately didn't do nearly as well, and I don't know, for whatever reason they they never eclipsed the success of this album. And produced by Bob Ezrin. I think Bob Ezrin was just coming off of the Pink Floyd's Pink Floyd's The Wall, and heard this before it was released, and liked it. And so they went in, and I think they remixed it at that point. I'm not sure on the details, but I know he was involved, and obviously he produced it. So, yeah, good debut by the Kings. Unfortunately, like I say, they never eclipsed or even came close to the same success they had with this. And this was even moderate success. I don't know how much success they had stateside or globally, but in Canada it's very well known, especially that tune. Those 2 tunes. I stand correct myself actually, because they are 2 separate tunes on the LP here, the vinyl. But the way they just kind of switch into glide and The Beat Goes On, it's a really natural transition. So, and I think initially in the States, at least on many of the stations, a lot of record companies will release. They'll pick a single to release to promote an album. Everybody knows that. I think most people are aware of that. And I think they actually released This Beat Goes On without the transition into Switch and Glide, and it just didn't work. But I think later on they actually did wisen up and release it as a single together, and the rest is history. Like I say, it's a very well known Debut here north of the border in Canada. I don't know about globally. Still got the original A&A price tag on there. I don't know if you can see it. I'll try. There's so much glare from my ambient lighting here because I'm in my basement, back in my basement. The grandkids are gone home for a few days. I still have company here from out of province, which I'm enjoying immensely, but hence the reason I haven't done much lately other than join into a few chat rooms, like I said, at Rachel's Ghosts. Fantastic. It's a lot of fun. And I learned some stuff, so that's always a bonus. But yeah, good debut. And as I alluded to in the beginning, I just wanted to give a shout out. One of my favorite bands when I was a youngster and still admire greatly. Manny Charlton from Nazareth passed away, I believe, on, was it Friday or Thursday? Recently, anyway, the last few days. And love Nazareth. I mean, I've only got 5 of their vinyl. Razamanaz, of course. Probably my favorite. And the deep tracks on here, or the deep cuts, I should say. From this one, Hair of the Dog. My older brother had this from almost my earliest memories. I was pretty young at the time when it came out, but contrary to what, I mean, it's well known for Hair of the Dog, you know. Miss Misery, Love Hurts was a big one on here as well. Changing Times is a great tune. They're all great. Like I say, I love this album. I'm a little bit biased. Beggar's Day, Rose and the Hither, Whiskey Drinking Woman. And my favorite, for sure, Please Don't Judas Me. I mean, Manny on that, as it just builds up and builds up until it's just, anyway, if you haven't heard it, I would suggest listening to this. And the album artwork. But anyway, this is about Manny. Rest in peace, Manny. I've got that one. I've got the Razamanaz, as I mentioned. Hair of the Dog. Close enough for rock and roll. Great albums. Any of the Nazareth, and of course my brother also had this one. You know, I think if most people has any Nazareth in their collection, it's typically this one, the greatest hits. Probably, I would suggest their best known release. Side 1 with Razamanaz, Holy Roller, Shanghai and Shanghai. Love Hurts, Turn On Your Receiver, Bad Boy, great tune as well. Oh, they're all so good. This Flight Tonight, Broken Down Angel. Hair of the Dog, Sunshine, My White Bicycle, Woke Up This Morning, awesome tune. Of course, This Flight Tonight was a Joni Mitchell tune. I suggest most people know that. But there's not a weak track on here. I mean, and yeah, just a great. The only one I don't have in this is basically Rampant. No, not Rampant. I'm sorry, Loud and Proud. I don't have Loud and Proud yet. That's one that's on my list. Like I say, I do have the Rampant one right here. Another strong album. I'm going on here a little more than I intended to. They're just all so good, and love Manny's work with Nazareth. So rest in peace, Manny. And yeah, I thought maybe I only had the one episode left of debuts in my collection, but there is one more I need to do. That will involve a very special release for me too. It's a personal one. It's not personally mine, but one that is special to me, as a lot of them are. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks all for tuning in, those who have tuned in, and the love. I mean, over at those chat rooms with Rachel's Ghosts, I've had many subscribers come over just as a result of that. Thank you all. It's very much appreciated. If you like it, give a thumbs up. Subscribe if you have not. Hit the notification, and I will see you, I guess, on episode 16. As I alluded to, there will be one more. So take care, everybody.